Oh yeah, we're recording. So welcome in everyone. My name is Ethan Kershaw. I work as the Sustainability and Resiliency Coordinator for the Public Works and Utilities Department at the City of Wichita. My position is pretty new, so you probably haven't heard of it or me, but I just started 2 years ago. And this position was created to share education materials, work a lot on water conservation as well. We have some air quality programs we run as well at the city. And then I've kind of taken this workshop approach to sharing information and making information available on topics that the community finds interesting. So if you've got requests for other topics you'd like to see covered at workshops, if you like having them here, let me know that as well, because I'm also trying to figure out the best locations that get the most people interested. Yeah, and I wanted to highlight some of the events we've been doing. So this is our second to last workshop. We've done water conservation, household waste disposal. This one's just titled Sustainable Living, but we'll get into some waste reduction tips today as well. And then next Tuesday night, we're doing an energy savings workshop at Westlink. I'll have some weatherization kits there. I've got some today as well that we're giving away. They're especially useful for sealing windows, doors, if you're worried about insulation or anything like that at your house or apartment. And so, talking today, I'm going to talk about general sustainability efforts at the city, looking at some past efforts that have been made in a few different focus areas we looked at during our planning process, and then really hone in on the waste reduction section and give out some different specific tips. I've got some technology recommendations, some different things you can just do at home, and advocating some information that we've got in our resources here today. We've got some trifolds on the 5 R's of waste reduction and illegal dumping, proper waste disposal. We've recently changed the city ordinances to be a little stricter on illegal dumping, help actually prosecute some of those instances. So if someone's vehicle is being used for illegal dumping, we're able to use the vehicle information rather than actually having to ID a face. So hopefully that helps alleviate some of those issues that we've seen across the city with especially mattresses and tires being dumped in places that they shouldn't be. All right, so we've got a small audience, but feel free to chime in here because I wanted to ask you all as well. What does the word sustainability make you think of?
For the future.
For the future, thinking about the future. I would definitely see tying in conserving resources, long-lasting, looking ahead. I also think of nature and trees a lot of times when people talk about sustainability. Energy, clean air and water. I list all these things to show that there's a lot of different things that people think of. And that's one reason I'm going to cover a few different categories today when I talk about sustainable living. And last but not least, waste reduction. I also wanted to kind of pose to you all, what does a sustainable Wichita look like to you? What does a community already do well? What do we need to do more of in the future? Does anything specific come to mind?
I think recycling.
Recycling? Yeah, I heard that the last workshop as well, that people are often dissatisfied or find it difficult to access the recycling that is supposed to be available.
I think the toxic waste.
Oh yeah, so pollution issues,
Yeah.
like water, groundwater.
Yeah, things like that, and the fact that the city provides a place for us to take things like fluorescent tubes, paints,
Yeah, actually, yeah, the Sedgwick County is responsible for those ones, and yeah, it's really great, and try to get that information out more. I've got a resource from Sedgwick County actually with me, their recycling and disposal guide they put together, so it lists all those things and where you can take those. I think that's really important because if that stuff ends up in the landfill, it causes a lot of other issues as well. It can start fires, can contaminate other things. If it ends up in recycling, then it also contaminates that. To me, yeah, so community support for those kinds of things, making sure everyone can access important resources, multimodal transportation options, so being able to walk, bike, drive, take transit, whatever type of transportation you're trying to access, that it can get you where you need to be. Expanding our tree canopy, native plants, supporting native wildlife in that way, and clean air and clean drinking water are definitely some things that come to mind to me, and something the city definitely needs to work on and that we are actively working on improving. So to start, I'll go through the different focus areas that we had identified through a planning process with the Sustainability Integration Board, which is a citizen board that was started a couple years ago. Within this community resilience plan, we looked at buildings and homes, energy supply and distribution, natural resources, which includes trees and water, transportation and land use, and then waste management and reduction, which is going to be a big topic today, and that I found is a very popular topic among the citizens. I've heard a lot of people interested in learning more about what we do and what can be improved. So giving an overview, looking at our buildings and homes category, how can our buildings be comfortable and efficient? So some things the city's tried to work on. So at our Act 3 terminal at the airport, the new terminal, it utilizes a lot of energy efficiency measures. It's, I believe, I forget which level of LEED certification it got. I think it might be silver, but that's a certification for buildings that shows that they're contributing water and energy efficiency throughout the building design. And so this building in particular uses a lot of those windows to help heat and cool without using as much of the HVAC system. Letting in more of the sunlight, natural light, do some of that work, and using that for lighting as well instead of having to rely on light bulbs. Similar work was done at the Advanced Learning Library. That building runs, I think, almost entirely on electricity, so that's one way it's helped reduce that, as the city is able to purchase renewable energy to use that as electricity. And the Advanced Learning Library within the library system has done a great job of showing some ways that can be done, and while still being a beautiful building. Looking wider, we can look at our building codes and standards, looking at energy efficiency rebates and support for the community, and making those advances. And then weatherization, I've got some of those weatherization kits that I mentioned. Looking at energy, so Evergy is our electric utility for the region. They are the one option for electricity. For the city's role, since they don't have any direct impact on Evergy in that sense, we do purchase electricity. We can buy renewable energy credits for wind power, and we can look at zoning within the city. There's been a lot of conversation recently on solar zoning in the county as well. So that conversation actually is still ongoing between the city council and the county commission. They're still deciding what some of those zoning rules are going to be on large-scale solar projects. And then as a community, we can explore some of these low-emission energy sources and improve energy efficiency and help protect our air quality in the area. Next up, natural resources. So my department has done a lot of work on the water side of this, but Park and Recreation does a lot of work on the green spaces and park availability to everyone, making sure that people can get out and into nature easily. Looking at our tree canopy, our water, stormwater, sewer utilities, all within Public Works. So those are responsible for providing drinking water and making sure that wastewater is not contaminating our environment either. And as a community, we can make sure to plant trees and native plants whenever possible, be water-wise with our watering at home and following the new watering schedule that was put in place to help maximize those water savings and help us be more resilient to future drought conditions and anytime we're not getting as much rain as we are this year, which has been a lot of rain. Looking a little more at drinking water, I have a lot of information on this, so I like to talk a little more in depth on it, but we provide water to almost 17% of the state population, 500,000 residents, and 11 wholesale customers in the surrounding area. And it's generally a vital resource for our area. And this is our new water treatment plant. This was a while ago. It's got grass and it looks a little greener now. But it's almost complete testing phase at this point. We should have the keys in full operation of the plant with the new year. I also, in this category, like to talk about extreme heat and some of the research that's been done on that. So there's a local urban heat island effect due to the many heat-absorbing structures and concrete and dark surfaces within urban areas. Wichita is no different in that sense. You can see that dark purple area, especially around downtown, and center and south central Wichita is where the highest heat exposure and heat vulnerability lies. So this looks at census data along with CDC data on where people are most at risk to the effects of heat due to pre-existing health conditions like asthma, heart disease, other things like that can all be exacerbated by extreme heat in the summer. It's still 80 degrees in October, so it feels like the heat never really ends some years, but this summer was definitely a milder one overall, especially given all the rains we got. So that's helped a little bit with some of the heat concerns this year, but in the past, especially during the drought years, we were experiencing a lot of heat in the summer and making sure people had access to resources, especially as there's higher nighttime temperatures in the summer, so there's no real relief for people who don't have somewhere with air conditioning to go at night. Also wanted to touch on our tree canopy study, which relates back to that urban heat island effect. You can see a lot of the tree canopy east and far west Wichita is where there's a greater tree canopy coverage right now. So we were looking at both of these maps to see which areas are most at risk. We used that in implementing our tree canopy policy and kind of prioritizing where those trees need to be planted. The group ICT Trees has done a lot of great work in getting trees out in the community and helps benefit everybody with cooler temperatures and cleaner air. Last one before we get to waste management reduction, I want to talk a little bit about transportation and land use. This is another one of my personal passions, but our transit department has made some advances in adding electric buses, and generally we're working to make sure within public works, within transit, within other parts of the city to help make sure people have multiple ways to get around. So that includes making sure our streets are in good condition, bike lanes included, sidewalks included, trying to make sure everything's taken care of. One impact on this, and why I mentioned land use in the same category, is planning and zoning. So as we set rules on where people are allowed to build certain types of housing or buildings, those can impact the ability of people to get around. So if all our housing is built far away from those other core services, it can be hard and you're kind of forced to take a car, or if you can't afford to have your own car, you may have to find other ways to get around. So making sure that everyone has ways to get around, and if possible, building in areas where there's housing and other commercial, maybe grocery stores close to housing, restaurants, other things that you'd want to walk to and be able to access on foot or on bike. I think those are all important things to consider for our community. Food deserts are something that comes up a lot. There's some more information on this actually out in the front lobby of this library, and they've got a great seed bank program. It's the colorful box right by the entrance. People can check out seeds for free. You check them out, but you just take them, and then you can grow some food at home. I think they've got a couple great fall vegetables and greens out there right now. Looking at active transportation, if you're getting around walking or biking, that actually helps boost your own health as well. So it's important to offer those options and help people generally be more active just in getting around places. Helps exercise not feel like work as much. And thinking about how we build and how we connect with others, helping our community with zoning and other building, in that we feel that sense of community at places like open streets and farmers markets. So those are some of my favorite events, and those are places where people can walk around and get between places really easily. And we see large turnout for those kind of events pretty annually. I mentioned food deserts. I've got this map here as well that kind of shows where some of those areas are, and this is a couple years old now, but this information is still pretty up to date on some of those areas that lack access to grocery stores. So those little pins are the grocery store locations that were noted in the study, and the orange shaded areas are those areas identified as food deserts. Part of that goes into affordability of the groceries there and general access to the store if it's not easy to get to without a car. That can play into this. And the city's got a program going right now, the Healthy Corner Store Initiative, where they're supporting some of those local grocers and starting either new stores or helping them maintain stores in those food desert areas. Oh yeah, there's the logo for it. Looking at multimodal transportation, we've got a bike plan that was updated recently and a Wichita Transit Network plan that was updated within the last year, making sure people have those options in getting around, all those different options I've talked about and more. This is the map for where we're at right now, so you can see there is some transit routes that run fairly close by. It helps that we're really close to the WSU campus, and they have two different routes that run from the campus, and Wichita State purchases access for their students to ride on our transit network. But you can see, I don't think the map's been updated with the new hub location yet because it's not finished construction, but the yellow circle with the bus on it is where the current hub for the network is. It's going to move across the river into Delano right by the ballpark soon. You can see the building's actually gotten a lot of construction done, so it kind of stands out now where some of the cranes over there are. And you can see that it would probably take you a little bit unless you were taking maybe the 28 line to get here, but it's definitely not the most isolated spot and location for transit networks, but there are some areas of the city where if you were relying on a transit network, it could be hard to get around, and especially in a timely manner. I talked a little bit about planning and zoning already and community connections, so I'll move on to the waste management and reduction section. Trash is not fun, but we can't really ignore its impact. The city directly owns Brooks Landfill and manages that area. That is not where residential municipal waste goes. Brooks generally just takes construction, demolition, and debris, and it will take for a tipping fee like mattresses, yard waste, other things like that. There are certain days of the year where the county works with the landfill to offer some free drop-offs, and those are generally really busy days. The city also is responsible for licensing trash haulers. So if you ever run into an issue or you know someone that's run into an issue where their hauler won't offer them recycling or won't offer them a lower price for a smaller container size, those are two things that all of our licensed haulers are required to do. So make sure to reach out to our environmental health division within Public Works. You can also call one of our Public Works lines or email our main email and we'll get you to the right person. But I've heard in the past that some of the, especially the smaller haulers, will just say on the phone at least that they won't offer recycling, and you have to push a little bit to get them to actually stand up to this. So I would just encourage you to keep that in mind, and if you have friends or family that run into issues with that, let them know that the city will help on their behalf in that point. And we've already talked a little bit about recycling. I also talk a lot about composting. I've seen a lot more interest in that recently as well. And I'll dive into those topics a little bit more. But we've also got a neighborhood cleanup program that the city and the city manager's office runs. Helps neighborhoods get rid of, a lot of times people use it to get rid of bulky waste, but generally helps keep your neighborhoods cleaner. I don't think they're taking new applications for cleanups right now, but your neighborhood might already be involved, and you can find information if you want to contact Brooke, who runs the program. I can give you her information, and it's on our city website as well.
We're having ours this weekend, so.
Oh, exciting, yeah.
Yeah, it is great. And then they have people that take the metal stuff, so.
Yeah.
So that's better yet.
Yeah, I helped with some of the contracting for it this year. It was a little bit of a challenge to find somebody who would take all the metal at a reasonable price, but I'm glad we did because I know there's demand for it, and making sure that people have a way to get rid of things like that. Like scrap metal still has value for recycling, so I think it's one of those things that isn't always the easiest to find the right place to take it here, but there's definitely a market for it, so we need to be making it easier through these cleanups and other ways for people to get rid of it. Talking in general about waste reduction at home and sustainable living, I'm sure you've heard of the 3 R's, but I also like to expand it out and use the 5 R's framework that other people have talked about. So first, refusing whenever possible. Avoid buying new things until you need to buy them. Reducing, so buying less things, avoid buying. One of the big things that people don't realize is going to waste, but in many American homes, it's almost a third of the food that we're buying is food waste. So you can try to mitigate that by meal planning, trying to plan out your meals. Sometimes it's just figuring out the right adjustments to make and changes in behavior that we've been doing for a long time, trying to avoid purchasing large in bulk unless you feel like you can use it all within the right time frame, because there are benefits to buying in bulk. That's one of the ways to save money in general. So making sure that you're planning out your meals and snacks and other things, and trying not to let that food go to waste. If you are having food go to waste, there is composting as an option. So you can compost at home, or there's at least one company that does some residential pickups depending on the area of the city that you're in, called Nudge Compost. They will get you set up with a subscription, and they will come pick up your compost and food waste. But it is pretty specific, I think. If you're looking at food scraps, a lot of times it needs to be fruit, vegetable, coffee grounds are a great one. You can do eggshells and compost at home as well. And I've got another guide on this as well, but happy to answer questions on composting too. Number 3 is reuse and switching disposable items like plastic silverware for reusable alternatives. So I've got a little kit I carry around with me for work when I go in and I need to, eat my leftovers that I'm bringing in. I use that and I can wash them, and then I still have them there at work. That way I'm not using new plastic ones each time. That's one of the easiest switches I think to make, even easier than straws or things like that, I think, is reusable silverware. It is more work on the washing end of it, but it does help you save money in the long run as you're not having to buy new ones each time. You can also then look to repurpose items, finding new uses for items that maybe don't work anymore or don't serve the same purpose that you had been using them for, and try to avoid sending them to the landfill in general. And then last, make sure to recycle if you have no other options of ways to get rid of it. Not everything's recyclable, but it's important to try to check. This recycling guide I've got with me from the county is a great one for our area because it's very specific to the city and the county. Some more specific examples of these 5 R's at home. So reducing is a great one, is bringing your own containers or bags into stores when you go shopping. Tote bags are a pretty popular giveaway at events, so that's one way. Repairing instead of replacing. When you've got something that is repairable, it's important to try to do that first instead of just buying a new one of it. We talked about repurposing a little bit already, but you can also donate or swap as a way to get things to be reused. Oftentimes Goodwill will do pickups of furniture that's in good condition. The little free libraries around town, you can drop books off in those. A lot of neighborhoods have one at this point, but you can find a map online at their website. Facebook Marketplace is another place I see people like swap or give things away for free because they're just trying to get rid of things, and somebody else is willing to take it and reuse it. So there's plenty of other sources online or in person within neighborhoods and other places, but generally, if an item's still in fairly good condition but you don't have a use for it anymore, there's probably somebody out there who does. Talking about recycling, glass, metals, and some plastics can all be recycled pretty consistently. There are definitely quite a few plastics that are difficult to recycle and may end up going to the landfill instead. I know there's been talk around that in town and within the country. That's a big discussion within the recycling industry as well. But I would say like paper as well is a good one that can be easily recycled and has a very high recycling rate. Those fibers from paper and cardboard are pretty easy to recycle. Within town, there's curbside options usually. There should always be if you're subscribing to a trash service. There's also a facility that takes drop-off of almost everything that's recyclable. It's called Pro Kansas. I can give address and everything if you're unfamiliar with them, but they've got some weekend hours and some weekday hours, and they offer recycling for free. So if you don't have the extra money to pay for it, that's a great option. That's what I do. And I live in an apartment complex, so that's really my only choice because my apartment does not offer any kind of recycling. Another way, and this one can be done at home, is composting, diverting food waste. I've actually got some free composters that I've given away at some workshops. One's an indoor one. It's sitting up on the table here. It's for composting using worms. So the end product is actually worm tea, and you can add that to your plants. You just have to rotate the boxes that are within it so that the worms work their way back down, and you add food scraps to the top. And the end product ends up at the bottom, and there's a little spigot that you can turn and open. I've also got some outdoor options. If you have a lot of trees and deal with a lot of leaves or other yard waste, it's a good option. It's basically a little metal fence. Some people homemade make these as well, but you just make a little circle with it. It's set up with the stakes and the little fence that would help keep it in place, and you just have to turn it every once in a while with a rake or something similar. And that compost, and it keeps it in a set area to kind of degrade and compost naturally. That's a good option if you're dealing with a lot of outdoor and larger items. The indoor is a good option if you have a lot of food scraps that you want to try to compost. Also wanted to break it down and provide a list of tips that I found online and that I think kind of relate to a lot of what I've been talking about. So a lot of the simple ones are making small changes and then seeing which ones you can make habits and get to stick in your daily life. So trying to use reusable shopping bags. I just keep my bags in my car so that I always have them with me. And that way, even if I forget, they're just out in the car, I can go run and grab them. You can start composting. I offered a few options for that. Buying in bulk is a good way to reduce waste as long as it's non-perishable items especially. So cans, I mean, stores like Costco or Aldi often try to sell in bulk in general, and you can save some money that way as well as you pay less per unit of the item. Just making sure that it's not something that you're not going to be able to use in time. Trying to avoid single-use plastics, so a lot of the most common ones come from restaurants and eating out, and oftentimes restaurants are now offering an option where you can say that you don't want to take their plastic, silverware, or other single-use plastic items that they would usually provide. You can also always just ask them, but trying to avoid those whenever you can is a good way. I mentioned meal planning already. Reusing and repurposing items. Recycling right, they emphasize the right part, as sometimes people are really wanting to recycle everything they can, but not everything they're putting in their recycling is actually going to get recycled. So it'll give you a more accurate picture of the waste that you're creating if you're paying attention to what you recycle and making sure that it follows the rules of your local recycler or city. Because they do change quite a bit area to area, is what I've noticed moving here from Kansas City. Some of the recyclers here take different things, and they don't want to take things that people in Kansas City would take as recyclable. So it's important to pay attention to those changes. Go paperless whenever you can. A lot of banks make it really easy and almost default you to getting paperless receipts. Not everybody has easy access to electronic mail or other things, but whenever you can, go paperless. Make sure you repair items before replacing them whenever possible, and I already mentioned donate or swap as well. A few different apps and websites you might want to check out. One of my favorites is Too Good To Go. There's a couple different places in Wichita that use this to let you rescue unsold food from stores before it gets thrown out. So I know Whole Foods does it. River City, I want to say Bakery is on there now. There's a few different dessert places. Krispy Kreme always has donuts that they're giving away through this. So you get them at a reduced price. So I think, for example, I've done the Krispy Kreme one before. I remember it was about $5 for a dozen donuts. And they're donuts that were made that day. They're just still left over at the end of the day. So there's some good deals on there for food as well. I like to bring the donuts into work as an option. Some people don't like that I do that because then they have to try to avoid donuts all day. But it's a good app in that sense. No Waste helps track what's in your fridge and helps remind you of what food's going to expire so that you know to use it before it hits the expiration date. Can help track vegetables, fruits as well, things that maybe you have to guess a little bit more on. Or use your best judgment in testing it. You can use different habit tracker apps or websites to log how often you are using leftovers and help you avoid single-use items. It'll send you an alert as often as you set the alerts for. And other expiration alerts can help you spot what's going bad before it has to be thrown away as waste for food. Because as I mentioned, food waste is a big one. I think the USDA had an app and website that you could do that through. And there's quite a few other companies that have ventured into that area as well. Some things that community members can definitely take part in. I mentioned swap groups already, but those are great, and oftentimes they're done through social media platforms. Okay, that's Sophie. Okay, the echo. So swap groups, yeah, help with that. Oftentimes it'll help you find items at a cheaper cost too, sometimes even for free. Sometimes people just want to get rid of something, and if you're willing to use it in some way, they'll offer to you for free if you're willing to come pick it up. Community fridges, you might have heard of before as well. Some areas set those up and have some success, and let you share food that's still good instead of throwing it away. Tool libraries, we've talked about setting something like this up with some of our library partners and maybe even at this location, but generally the idea is to help people not have to buy those tools that they'd only use one time, so they just have a place to borrow it from. Yeah, things like this lists out ladders, sewing machines, drills, things that you're really only going to use maybe once a year. Having some kind of lending system among your friends or family can be really great, so that not everybody has to buy these, and you can kind of share those costs. I also wanted to give a shout out to Food Rescue ICT. They're a great organization that helps divert food from events, companies, other times where there's excess food, and get it to shelters and other food banks, so that food's not going to waste and that it's going to people who need to eat the food, because food waste is, as I've mentioned, a huge issue. So they're a great group. You can volunteer with them to help transfer that food from the pickup spot to the food bank. Very easy to get set up on. I can show anybody in person how to do that. They just do it through a website, and you can set it up on your phone as well to have access to it. It'll send you reminders when there's a shift available. Usually they're only going to take you maybe an hour at most. Usually it's less because Wichita's usually not a place you have to drive an hour to get across through parts of town, because they don't have many staff. So this is where they rely on volunteers to do that access part of it, while their 2 staff members handle the coordination of the volunteers and of picking up of the food options that they're getting signed up on there. I've mentioned this resource a couple times as well. I've got some printed copies. It's also available online. The Sedgwick County Environmental Resources Department put this together. They're responsible for waste transfers and hazardous waste disposal, as I mentioned, but they've got that information and more within this guide. So highly recommend checking that out. They're going to update it soon, actually. So they updated in 2024. They're going to update it again this year. Also done by the county. So annually there's April special waste events. So this year it was tire collection. Those are usually the odd numbered years. And next year in April, it's going to be an e-waste event most likely. So e-waste is generally anything with a cord they're going to be willing to take and help either recycle or let it be reused or safely disposed of. And they don't charge for those drop-offs at those events. Usually it's just long lines, so you have to deal with those. And they're going to open up, last I'd heard it was October 13th, a free mattress disposal coupon sign up on their website. Their special events page is where that'll be found. So you can check that out. Sedgwick County residents, that includes City of Wichita, get a coupon to dispose of 2 mattresses or box springs, or if you mattress and a box spring, you can take both. And then you'd be able to use that within 1 month from the date of the sign up. Usually they go pretty fast, so I recommend checking it out next week if you're interested. Here's some links to resources. I can always share these in other ways as well, but generally all my work and related resources are going to be under wichita.gov/sustainability, and for Sedgwick County it's sedgwickcounty.org/environment. All right, I'm going to get some water, but then we'll take questions and anything else that you all want to talk about, anything I didn't cover that you'd like to hear about or that you think I should mention if I can. All right, I don't think we had anybody join online, so I don't think there's going to be any questions from there. So I'll stop sharing and happy to answer any in-person questions here.